everyone, I'm Adelaide. Welcome to a special edition of Sunday Morning Breakfast with the Arts. I am super excited because today we are going to be talking about the history of busking. I'm also going to be talking about what I really like personally about busking. So let's get to the show. Hold up. Before we start, I would really like to apologize for not being able to do a few Sunday morning breakfasts with the Arts. I was really busy with my shows and stuff, and especially busking. I was going out busking like crazy, so I was busy, so I just couldn't get to it. I feel bad for that. Sorry. Okay, now we can get to the show. So, first thing off, what is busking? Busking or street performance is the act of performing in public places for gratuities, aka tips. Most of the time, tips are cash, but food may be given to you through your can. We'll get to that in a minute. Busking is practiced all over the world and goes way back in our history. What it means to Americans relates to the First Amendment, and it's super important to our civil rights. But we'll get to that in a bit. The term busking in English was first used in the 1860s and comes from the Spanish verb buscar, meaning to seek. Here's some history of busking. Busking was the easiest way to make money before recording and distribution. Busking is still common among the Romani people or gypsies, but that term is no longer acceptable. So the Roma brought busking to England through Spain up into North Europe. The medieval France buskers were first known as troubadours, but the French began to use the word busquer, meaning to seek or prowl, making the term busking more universal. Mariachis perform while traveling through the streets and plazas in Mexico, moving in and out of the restaurants and bars through the day. So, if you want to learn more about those mariachis, you can watch the movie Coco. It's a good Pixar film, and it's all about music, so I really like it. Some people are not cut out for busking. You have to be pretty bold to put it all out there on the sidewalk. Busking is scary and sometimes can be dangerous. People will try to steal your gear or earnings. Here's my favorite quote from Catch the Car of the Old Crow Medicine Show. Busking is a very humble and brave act, but it takes courage to do well. The Old Crow Medicine Show is a great current band that sells out big music halls, but they still follow the tradition of old school busking and even get their name from old-time medicine shows. In the U.S., medicine shows were big in the early 19th century. Traveling vendors selling health potions and goods would provide entertainment to draw people in. After each performance, buskers would pass the hat. When I got booked to play outdoor events, like the Burlington Farmers Market, it feels a lot like a medicine show. I'll have my case open or my busking can out celebrating the old tradition. Folk music is a big part of busking, and it's how the message of music spreads. Two of the most famous folk singers, Woody Guthrie and Joan Baez, made a living this way. Delta blues made its way around the U.S. in its open cases of blues musicians in early 1940s. In the 1950s, folkies played coffee houses and pubs where they were allowed to use a tip jar. Hippies and protesters in the 60s staged be-ins that became outlets for buskers. Some of the best known performers of the time, like Janis Joplin, Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Country Joe and the Fish, all played these kind of events. In the 2000s, some performers have turned to cyberbusking. Artists stream performances on the internet, and if people like it, they make donations using PayPal or another online payment system. There are different types of street performances. Musical acts are known as walk-by acts because they are typically an act that doesn't have a true beginning or end. People will watch for a short time and move on. If your act is good, a walk-by turns into a circle show, where the crowd will form a semicircle or surround the performer. This is a big rush for the street performer, and it feels just as good as your tips. So another great quote from Ketch about songwriting, he says, people have short attention spans. So if you can get them to stop, if you can get them to listen with the song, then you've got yourself a keeper. So how do you collect money? Buskers collect donations and tips in different ways, depending on the busking. For walk-by acts, open instrument cases and special cans is the choice. The open case is the most common because you don't have to haul anything extra to collect. The empty gallon of paint is a good choice because you can write tips right on the can, and I've used both. So this is the can that I use right here, and as you can see, it says Rock Your Block right here, and it's my chipped jar, and instead of just money. You can get stuff like this thing I got at the farmer's market, Lamont Sugar House. And I got even garlic. I'm not going to take it all out right now, but I got garlic, and I got fruit. I got like exotic pears and stuff. And also you could get gift cards and stuff, and I've gotten gift cards before for like shows and stuff, and I can like go to shows and stuff. And also, don't forget signage, because you can have like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And when you use that stuff and when you put it out there, then it's really cool, because then you get more followers and then you get to talk to people online more. So, anyway, I use the open case for busking for myself, and I use the can when I'm raising funds for Rock Your Block. So where do you busk? Well, here's a map of the Connecticut showing hot and not so hot spots to busk. I use an app called Pinbox that lets me take notes on the locations and if I should go back or avoid it, because the man is trying to keep me down. That brings me to the law. Everyone asks, is it legal? Yes it is. Not only is it legal, but we have given the right as citizens protected under the First Amendment to the Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of people peaceably to assemble, and the petition of the government for a redress of grievances. So, I have this brochure we made to describe in detail of what those rights are. But you have to know the local laws and understand that the man is going to hustle you out, even if you are in the right. If the cop tells me to leave an area, I will pack up and go. But I make sure that they get this flyer and a lesson about why they are violating my rights. So, in the United States, under the First Amendment and most European countries, the protection of the free speech extends to busking as freedom of expression. The places to practice free speech are the public parks, streets, sidewalks, thoroughfares, and town squares or plazas. Private property may be open to buskers, especially if it's open to the public and the performer does not interfere with nearby businesses. While there is no universal code, there are local laws and that buskers must follow. It is universal common law that buskers should not block foot traffic, block entrances or exits, or endanger the public. So that's why I have this busking mat. It's tiny small busking mat. And it's just to let the people know that that's my spot and that it's their spot and it separates our spots. Some places need a special permit to use an amplifier and may limit the volume. So know the law before you use an amp. So that's why it brings me to thing. So this is my Roland Microcube. It has a strap so you can hold it. This is my original amplifier, and it's the Micro. It has a bunch of different level changes so you can change the effects and stuff. It has a automatic tuning thing. It doesn't have the most amount of watts, which is actually good. It has 3 watts, and it runs off battery. It has like 4 batteries in it, and it's definitely good for busking, but I must say it's not the best for acoustic. So that's why I got the newer version of a outdoor busking amplifier from Roland. It's a newer version, I can just say. It's not a newer version, it's a newer amp. But this is the Roland AC33. And it's definitely way better. It takes like 8 batteries though. And it lasts for about 2 hours maybe. And so it has a looper if you don't have a band with you. It has a vocal line, and it has a regular guitar or instrument input, and it's really cool. So it also has a headphones jack if you want to practice in your room quietly so no one can hear you. Also, it has a plug-in, so if you're out playing at a big gig or something, there you go. You don't have to waste the battery, because the amp has 20 watts when on battery and 30 watts when it's plugged in. So I'm pretty sure it's good for gigs too. Most places have a law that any disturbing or noisy behaviors may not be conducted after a certain time at night. That's why I usually busk in the morning between breakfast and lunchtime. Brunch busking! So let's talk about some great buskers and notable performances. Benjamin Franklin was a street performer. He composed songs, poetry, and spoke about current events. He would then sell printed copies of his work to the public. He was discouraged from busking by his father, who told him it was not worth the negative views people attached to it by calling him a gypsy. It was this experience that helped him become a champion of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of press, and freedom to assemble, and all rights that are covered in the First Amendment. Tracy Chapman began her career busking in Harvard Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Mike Doughty, former singer of Soul Coffin, released Busking in 2007 with live recordings from the 14th Street subway station in New York. Sterling McGee and Adam Gassow, aka Satan and Adam, were busking in Harlem in 1987 when U2, with the film crew, stopped to record them. The footage appeared in the film Rattle and Hum. George Michael of Wham used to busk in the London Underground, performing covers like 39 by Queen, Catch the Core, and the Old Crow Medicine Show started out busking and stay committed to it. Rod Stewart and folk singer Whiz Jones started busking in London together in 1962. They traveled to Paris sleeping under bridges, using tips to survive. They finally ended up in Barcelona, Spain, where Rod was deported for vagrancy in 1963. Katie Tunstall, a popular Scottish singer, has been recorded a bunch of times busking in Glasgow. T-Rex members Mark Bolan and Steve Peregrine Took started acoustic busking in Hyde Park in 1967 after their electric equipment was confiscated by Track Records. The duo would go on to release 3 albums together. The Violent Femmes were discovered by the Pretenders in 1981, where they were busking in front of the theater in Milwaukee. Chrissie Hynde invited them to play a brief acoustic set after the opening act. Here on YouTube, you can find dozens of busking videos with current bands and performers just taking to the street to play. Checking out the busking segments that Jimmy Fallon has with Christina Aguilera, U2, and a bunch of other performers. I've seen performers like John Mayer or Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top surprising the street musicians by just walking up and sitting in for a song or two. So to recap, busking is freedom of expression and not illegal. Buskers perform. They're not looking for a handout. And busking and fundraising are not panhandling. So, busking is protected under the First Amendment to the Constitution, and fundraising for a nonprofit is always protected. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment or religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So, thank you everyone for watching for this week's Sunday morning breakfast with the Orts. Can we just do the ending again? So, that's it for this week's Sunday morning breakfast with the Arts. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe and click the bell to watch more, to get more notifications, and keep on busking. See you out in the streets. Enjoy the journey.